Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the podcast, Not Quite Strangers. My name is Valerie Hope. I'm your host, and my job is to bring together a couple of people that I think would be fantastic conversations, because I want to inspire curiosity, not only among us, but also for you all listening, as well as support you in shifting your perspective about something or someone, and then ultimately establish a connection. And that's the point of this entire podcast. If you're not already subscribed, please do so. You can do it on any major podcast platform, and also rate us. Let us know what you think of the show, especially this particular episode. It's going to be epic. I've been told. I didn't declare it, but Eddie apparently thinks so. So, Mr. Bolich, we'll need to unmute you. So that, again, that little button on the bottom left hand, there you go. I wanted to introduce my special guest for the day. We'll start off with David Bolich here. So, Mr. Bolich, you were my band director when I was in high school. And I didn't join the band until I was a junior in high school. And up to that point, I think I've told you this several times already throughout my lifetime, but my high school years were miserable, my first two. I moved to Alabama from Hawaii because my dad was in the Army. And when I joined Carroll High School, I was in 9th grade, and it was really tough kind of getting accustomed to a new place and new culture. I hadn't gone to elementary and junior high with all the other kids like most of them had. And so I felt like an outsider until I joined the band. And somehow you like blew up my life as a junior in high school, because not only did I join my band with my good friends, but I also made even more friends, including this other guy over here, Eddie Watkins. And Eddie, who would have thought that, I don't know how many years later, 85 years later,
we'd still be alive.
We'd still be alive and having a conversation. You and I were in band together. You were a year younger than me, and you made band fun, right? So a big part of what happened to me is that I enjoyed the people. I enjoyed being creative. Mr. Bolich, you gave me opportunities to lead and share my talents in the band, and a lot of different opportunities. And then Eddie, you just made it fun, and you, I think, brought people together, and we had a lot of laughter, and you're also very talented. So I want to thank the two of you for saying yes to being on the podcast. Welcome.
I'm proud to be here.
Yay!
Thanks for the invitation. I'm excited to see what this is all about.
Right? When was the last time the two of you saw each other?
Ooh.
Wow.
A long time ago.
High school or very shortly thereafter. Yeah.
It may be that long ago. Yeah, I'm not sure we've seen each other since then, to be honest. It's been a long time.
Like in person, you haven't seen each other in person since you were in high school, Eddie?
I don't think so. We may have, it's possible.
Like 1973?
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
1992.
92, I think. But anyway, so many kids have gone through that program, and when they graduate, they go to school or go to jobs or whatever. Okay. And Eddie was one of the ones that went to school. And I can't recall right now exactly where he went to start with. But anyway, there's an awful lot on the plate when you're in that room. Okay. Yeah. And I am so proud of the graduates that have gone through there, but keeping up with them, there's not but, well, as I ran into somebody a couple of days ago that said, well, Mr. Bolich, how many kids do you think went through your program? I said, never mind.
Too many to count.
Well, basically, just a guess, a few thousand. Okay.
A few thousand.
And that's quite a challenge to keep up. But I have managed to watch some of the things that Eddie has done because we're Facebook friends. But the places that he's been, holy crap. And he's now not just Mr. Watkins, he is Dr. Watkins. Okay, hello. But he was also a favorite of our biology teacher there. And
Remember D's.
Miss D's, yes, Miss D's.
Miss D's.
Yeah, and she was a classmate of mine at Carroll.
Huh.
Ready for that one?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was my biology teacher too. I remember my freshman biology. I stopped biology shortly after that. So that was enough. So Mr. Bolich, I'm curious about, can you share with us, like, what are you up to these days, just in general? You've retired as a teacher, right? How long
Yes.
how long ago has it been since you retired?
11 years.
11. Okay, not too
Well, no, 12 now.
oh, that's long.
But I piddle. Okay, I do a little bit of everything. I built a woodworking shop back in 02, 03. And I've always enjoyed woodworking, and I make stuff, all by commission. I don't go out and try to sell them. I'm not commercial by any means, but if somebody needs something, I will do my best to make them.
You're just a man of many talents. Oh my goodness.
Well, the good Lord gave me talents,
Yeah.
and of course the edict with that was, okay, I'm going to give you these. Now you're going to go share them.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's been my life. But I do that and piddle around, help kids, learning and so forth and so on. I still am semi-active with the band director groups, and I covered for Nick when he was here, and Brenda now. Okay, I go in when they're out.
Are those the band directors at Carroll High School?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Nick McDonald left here 3 years ago, and a former student of mine,
Yeah.
Brenda Simachek now, a flute player, is now the band director, and I go in and cover for her. So
Cool.
I stay reasonably busy as much as the body will let me.
We're glad that you made some time for us today. I'm going to switch to Mr. Dr. Watkins. How should we address you, Your Highness?
My liege.
Captain, my captain. So Eddie, catch us up and catch up Mr. Bolich, since you haven't seen each other in forever. Besides the stuff he's seen on Facebook, what are you up to? Where are you? What's cool?
Well, I'm now a biology professor, thanks to you dropped out and I took your spot in biology. And so at Colgate University, it's a liberal arts school up in upstate New York in Hamilton, part of the Snow Belt. And this little rural hamlet, it's a village, actually, about 2,000 people, I guess, in the village. So it's south of Syracuse. It's a beautiful place. And I teach a lot of different classes on biology, plant biology mainly. And so it's pretty much the same story. I work on ferns, same story since I was in high school, thinking about ferns even back then. Yeah, I have two children now. One is 19 years old, 6'4" and a half, he would say, and then a 16-year-old who is just 6 feet and 190, big baseball player. I mean, I've made some big kids.
That's cool.
Yeah. And I to answer your question earlier, I went to Auburn, so you have the right shirt on. I did, Troy State for a while, Wallace, and I wound up at Auburn finally, and then so I did go to Auburn to get my bachelor's degree, Mr. Bolich. So you are wearing the right shirt.
So, Mr. Bolich, I went to University of Alabama.
Yeah, but
and I was in the color guard there.
No love lost.
Did you make the band at Auburn, Eddie?
No, but I went to the University of Alabama, not the University of Alabama.
There it is. That's it.
Fair
no,
enough.
but I didn't play with the band there. But Mr. Bolich, I have kept up to some degree with my music. I was playing with the Moonlighters back then. You may remember that group.
Oh yes,
it was a big band.
I played in the Moonlighters.
That was a big band group. I think I was the youngest by about 50 years in that group.
Like a community band or something, or?
It was a semi-pro group of big band, an 18, 20-piece big band, mostly older people. Okay. And we'd play at weddings and funerals and at the mall, and we played all over the place. And I was playing, first year in college, I played with them, but then I got too busy. But I don't know if they're still even around. I'm not sure.
Oh, yes, they are.
Wow, a long time.
Cool.
They are still active. And you pretty much hit it. It's all just local guys and girls and ladies that just hang out and make music. They still rehearse once a week or so, or I think they do.
Yeah.
And I've got a few friends that still play with them.
Do you guys still play? Do you still play any instruments, Mr. Bolich?
No.
No? And Eddie?
I do on occasion. I mean, I sort of have I've been off and on the faculty advisor to the PEP band here at Colgate, and so I've played a few times. I played in the wind ensemble here a couple years ago, but it's their practice like it starts at 11 o'clock at night, and I'm too old for that.
And you're still saxophone, right? With sax?
Yeah, I played saxophone, French horn, mellophone.
Right.
But sax really.
Do you still have your baritone sax?
I do, same one.
Same one. I remember when your dad bought that for you.
I do too. That was a big purchase.
I was right taken aback. I know how much it cost.
Yeah, that was well. I was going to be a musician. That's what I wanted to do it back at that time, but I wasn't that good. Yeah. I wasn't good enough.
So I'm curious from the two of you, for anyone that might be listening. So I took piano, I think maybe 10 years, right, leading up through high school. And it was okay. I mean, I learned to play. It wasn't something I got a lot of joy from, but I think it gave me an inroads to being in the band, because Mr. Bolich, you invited me to be in the concert band. I got to play mallet percussion and in the jazz band my senior year. So I got some great opportunities because of that. I'm curious though, when you guys thought about music growing up, just, in your earliest memory, what was it that drew you to the instruments that you play? How did you choose the instrument, basically?
Go ahead.
That's a good question. I don't know. I started with Mr. Peak. Jimmy Peak was a band director at Carroll High School. Not at D.A. Smith Middle School, and we had, you would just join the band. I guess 5th grade. And they had all these instruments laid out one evening. You tried to play a couple of them, and he said, and I picked up the trombone. He said, "You're a trombone player, just like Mr. Bolich, trombone." And I said, "Well, it's kind of a boring instrument." No, it was. I'm just joking. But for some reason, the saxophone was there, curled up, and I was like, "That's just kind of." It was gold and silver. I was like, "That's kind of a better," So I just chose it based on the way it looked. I think really, I didn't know anything about saxophone or jazz or anything at that point in my career, but Mr. Peak was really pushing the trombone, but I never picked up on that. I know Mr. Bolich was a trombone player.
But once you picked up the saxophone, what happened?
God, I don't know. I just clicked, and woodwinds are much easier to play than brass, in my opinion, and so I think, I don't know. And then I started playing baritone saxophone at some point after that. And that really is really where it was, where I really fell in love with the sound, the instrument. It was this big thing. And so, I don't know, I just love the sound of it. It's always resonated with me. And so, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Mr. Bolich, what instruments do you play? And it sounds like you're a trombone at heart. How did you decide that was your instrument?
I didn't.
Oh.
It was decided for me.
Mr. Peak? Was it Mr. Peaks?
No, not
Could
Mr. Peak. Dr. Mosley.
Oh, that's right.
That's my band director. And right. This was back in the early 60s now, you get to keep in mind. We didn't necessarily get to choose what we wanted, okay? Mm-hmm. Mr. Mosley at the time, called my house. I'd gone to a meeting, okay? Those kids that are interested in being in band come to the lunchroom, yada, yada, yada. And I signed up, and he called, and my mom answered the phone and said, after the conversation, she said, "We're going to go over to the high school and get you a instrument." I said, "Well, which one are we going to get?" She said, "You're going to play a trombone because Mr. Mosley needs trombones." Okay. So that's where it went. But now, by the time I was a sophomore in high school, I had started, ironically, doubling on baritone saxophone. The cover band that I was playing in at the time, we needed a baritone saxophone for a couple of the tunes that we were playing. And so I learned how to play it. And it wasn't long after that it sort of dawned on me that this comes kind of natural. Mm-hmm. And I started doubling. It's called doubling, playing other instruments. And by the time I graduated from high school, I was playing my principal instrument, trombone. along with baritone, tenor, and alto sax and flute. So I went to undergraduate school with, a little bit of experience in other instruments under my belt, and that made things a whole lot easier.
I bet. I
Uh,
bet. That's
but
impressive.
I knew I was going to be a musician from early on. I don't know
How
how.
early? How
Uh,
early?
I'm just, well, creative. Okay. I'm a lefty. All right. I'm left-handed, and as they say, left-handed people are right-minded. Okay.
I've not heard that.
Oh, okay. Well,
Okay. I got you. I got you. Yes, creative minded.
it's the
I
creative
will
side, right?
I will add that I didn't really get to choose everything, because when I came to Carroll, I was playing I didn't have the baritone at that point, and Mr. Bolich said, it's too expensive for you to march around with this giant thing on the field. You can't take the baritone sax on the marching band. And I didn't want to play alto because I didn't like the way it sounded. He said, and I said, I don't want to do that. He said, here, and he handed, you may not remember this in your office, there was a mellophone. I didn't know what it was in the case at the time. You just kicked it over with your foot's here. You go learn how to play this. You can play this in the jazz band and the marching band. I opened it up and said, how the hell do I play this? Because it's such a different beast, the brass, and
Yes,
so then I picked up mellophone and French horn, and it was awesome because it was so much fun to play that instrument. It was so loud.
Yeah, and of course,
I loved it.
There was not just it's a big old instrument. It's lost on a field.
Yeah, true,
Okay?
true.
It's just not going to make as much contribution as other instruments do, especially brass, obviously.
Right.
But not only that, it's a little dangerous out on a football field. To be out on a football field, it can get broken very easily.
Yeah.
And like I said earlier, or mentioned earlier, they're expensive and they are expensive to repair.
Right.
And I just rather saw Eddie and doing something because he's talented, and I knew it. Playing something that would make a more of a contribution and make him feel better about what he's doing.
That's nice. Look at that, Eddie. You're like,
he had
make
a plan.
wish.
I thought he was just trying to get rid of me.
Oh, that's good. And
No.
Mr. Bolich, though, I mean, you tended to do that because I joined when I joined the band. First of all, I played piano, yes, but I'd also played the clarinet. I don't know if you knew this. From 7th grade, when we lived in Hawaii, I took up the clarinet, and I can't even remember why the clarinet, but I think I like the look of it, right? This in the keys, the black and silver contrast, or something about it.
It was a small instrument with a small case. Okay.
Yeah.
It was easy to carry, yes, but I didn't want the flute. But I ended up playing clarinet, and I did beginner band and intermediate band, and all that. Then when I moved to Alabama, I actually joined the Enterprise Junior College had a community band.
Yes.
And I did that for a couple of years. So that period of time between 9th and 10th grade or so, I did the community band, but I wasn't that great in the clarinet. So it wasn't something I paid a lot of attention to and practice. So when I got to Carroll Band, I was like, I don't think I'm qualified to play this. I just stopped. But I'm curious, Mr. Bolich, about because you did this for not only Eddie, you did this for me too when it came to opportunities to play. You invited me to be on the concert band. You invited me to be in the jazz band. Like, how did you know which students you wanted to pick or support this way?
You provided me the information.
What does that mean? Because I never asked. I never requested.
I know you didn't. I know you didn't. I asked you, would you? Okay.
Yeah, that's
would you
true.
do this? There's certain things that people, kids, okay, project that they are not really aware that they project. A desire to be good at what you do, pride in your accomplishments and feeling comfortable, whatever the situation is, hidden talent, you mentioned that you had played piano, and right off the bat, okay, she reads, okay?
Mhm.
She knows how to read music. That's a step, big step. Not only that, she has been exposed to the disciplines in music. And when I say disciplines, I'm not talking about getting whooped or something on that order. It's
Band was hard.
that's funny.
I have the
That was-
scars.
The
That's
sun
funny.
beat us. That's what it did.
A discipline is something you want to do. Okay. And that's something that I just had this thing. I could spot it.
Mm.
And when especially when a leader issue came up, when I could spot a kid that knew how to lead, we were wide open. Let's go to work. Let's make some things happen. And it was just sort of kind of that way. But it's paying attention to the kids, okay?
Yeah.
Being observant and being sensitive to what's going on with them and understanding them, and the fact that teenagers are teenagers and they show you a lot of things that they don't think they're showing.
Can you give an example? And Eddie, I know you have teen sons. So are they teenagers now? Yes. You said 19
Yeah, 19 and 16.
and 16. Yeah. So, okay. So yeah, what do teenagers show that they don't think they're showing?
No, that's hard to say. That's hard to say it because it's kind of intrinsic. Okay.
Okay.
Usually centers around activities, okay, and their desire to be and take part and do things. And that's I don't know, okay. It's just sort of a sixth sense, I guess, okay. But there is something that I tell every parent that used to, or friend, whatever, okay. Would you recommend that I send my kid or put my kid in band? I said, it really doesn't matter. Your kid needs to do something. Don't be a locker leaner.
I remember locker leaner. You used to say that all the time. Yeah.
Well, who are locker leaners? Folks that don't do anything. Okay. And who are the ones that are getting in trouble, causing problems, being a pain in the butt in class? Those are the locker leaners. Those are the ones that are not using what the good Lord gave them to do something for other people. And that's just something, I gravitate to right away. I did with you.
Makes sense.
Okay. I saw you in the color guard and I knew full well, you wanted to do something. That's what it was. That's the trigger. I want to do something. Is there anything that I can do? Yeah.
Cool.
And
I appreciate that. I know Brandy Jerkins didn't appreciate it.
Good Lord. That's still a little bit raw.
No, because, Eddie, I don't know if you know this, but Mr. Bolich, I was in color guard 1 year, like just one season, and he asked me to try out for captain. And I was like, are you serious?
I remember that.
Like, I've only done this 1 year. But Brandy had been in band all 4 years, and this was her senior year. So I was just like, I don't think that's going to be. And so I tried out like everybody else, and my tryout sucked, I think. I mean, it did just enough. I was a good executor, but I wasn't a great creative. And so I had to make up my own routine, and it was like speed spins and tosses. It was basic.
Oh my gosh.
It was basic. So, but then, Mr. Bolich, when you called me and Brandy into your office together, and we were both like, what are we doing here? And then you looked at us and said that we're co-captains. And I don't think we ever had co-captains. That was quite a shock, I'm sure, for both of us.
I remember that.
You remember that, Eddie?
I do. Not that I wasn't in the office. I remember the co-captaincy. I remember the conversations with you there. There was interesting tensions there.
But Brandy she's a gift, or was, I don't know now, but she's definitely gifted in creativity and movement. And Mr. Bolich, you recognized and acknowledged that in her. And then you told me about teacher, and you're the first person that ever said that. To this day, I think I've told you many times, but every time, Eddie, I talk to somebody about who was my greatest coach or teacher, I say Mr. Bolich, because he saw something and he named something in me that I had no idea was even there. It was such an instinct for me that I do credit you in part for my role now as a coach and a speaker, because I was like, that is true. I do kind of gravitate towards this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Eddie, what did Mr. Bolich do for you?
He bailed me out of jail a couple of times. So he paid my bond.
Thank you for being a locker leader.
I think it's similar. I think that, you touched on, as a teacher, the sort of the things that he brings to the table. But I think that one thing that was important about that time in band was learning about leadership. You mentioned Mr. Bolich's leadership. And I think that, you brought a lot, but learning how to be a leader, and being allowed to be a leader and being encouraged to be. I didn't know that's what it was at the time, but that was a really big deal. That's not something that's taught very easily. And I think, in band, back then it was intense. Band was, I don't know how it is now, but it was a really intense period in both of our lives. I remember the first time we met, Valerie, as a matter of fact, too, was in band camp. And I think that, it was about leadership. And, I was, when I played mellophone, I was, first chair, because that's how bad mellophones were. But then as this upperclassman, you're the leader, and allowing me to work with these young underclassmen and being empowered to teach them, working with them in the field, doing 8 and 8 up and down the field all day long. Those moments of leadership came up, and I learned my first window into leadership. So that was important. I use a lot of those same techniques today that you taught me, even in my own classrooms, and looking at students and who will be the leaders, who won't be the leaders, who are the locker leaders. I don't say that, but I think a lot of those skills really were first planted back in high school under working with you. And I think back about that. There's one moment, I don't know what it was, but we used to do this thing where we'd have the sections go out on the field, and we would design our own little marching routine, and then we would do the march, and then everyone was up on the hill there watching, and we would do this thing. We wouldn't play, we would do some kind of marching thing. I don't remember what it was, but so I remember once we did something, and then the flutes went out and did something, and we were sitting on the hill, and the flutes did their thing, and I started clapping, said, "Yeah, go flutes!" And everyone at that point was just like, "What's going on?" Mr. Bolich looked down, said, "That's exactly right. That's what a leader does." And then the whole field started, and then from then on, from the rest of the season and for the next coming years, anytime we would do that exercise where the tubas would go out, or they would do some little demonstration march for the rest group, it was all about building camaraderie amongst each other. We were out there, if they didn't do well, we didn't do well. And that all came from Mr. Bolich, the idea that we're in this, it was a team, it was a real team, a real leadership. And he sort of encouraged that and allowed us to be nerds, which was a big deal.
Band nerds unite.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That is fascinating. This idea of, especially as a young person, and you're right, Eddie, that I work with leaders all the time, right. And sometimes they haven't received the kind of training, right? Unless you put them through a specific leadership training course, so to speak, right. Like a corporation might do. It is those opportunities when we're young, where we start to develop and hone certain skills. We learn to know what we bring to the table, maybe our unique way to lead. And I think, Eddie, you were always a section leader, as far as I knew, at least the 2 years that I was in high school. What skills do you use now that you learned or were introduced to when you were that young?
That's a good question. Now from that, I think, that's an interesting question. I think the idea that, I was section leader because we were a small group. There are never very, very many mellophones in the marching band. So that's the only reason why.
Section of one.
I was a great leader. I think as a young person, I I was actually introverted, believe it or not, Valerie, but shy, and the idea that I could be a leader was not a comfortable thing, but building that courage up to speak out, to direct, I think was something that I had to develop. And I think that has carried with me. And it started that moment because I was actually very timid in the beginning and playing, and I wasn't very confident at all in the beginning of my career there. And so I think, I'm not sure if I'm answering your question really, but
Okay.
but I think confidence, I built a lot of confidence up with music, and and Mr. Bolich, he wouldn't pull punches. He would be very direct. If you messed up, you would know it, and he would tell you, and that's important. That sort of, you're not out there to be their friends. He wasn't trying to be our friends. He was being our teacher. And if you made a mistake, and he would call you out and say, I didn't like what you did out there. You did this, that, and so I've learned that. I started learning that skill there. People will respect you a lot more if you're just honest and direct with them, especially if you're in a leadership position, and you have to be over them or, direct them. You can't do that with your friends. And so I learned that. And I think that was an important lesson, but even back then.
I remember I learned watching Mr. Bolich get on your case, because I don't think I ever experienced it firsthand.
I had it a few times.
But I observed a lot. You and your gang. The Rip Curl gang.
Oh God.
And you learn to spot leadership qualities in people, I think, okay, by observing their basic behaviors. If they're not afraid to try something, there's a potential leader somewhere in there. And I'm not talking about trying something really stupid or wrong or whatever. I'm talking about you're faced with a challenge and you say, oh, okay, well, this might not be all that easy, but I think I might be able to do it. Okay. And that's one of those things. Okay. And that you, as a teacher, you learn to look for. And yes, band was a family, pure and simple. We leaned on each other. We loved each other, hated each other, ran each other nuts. Okay. It was one of those things. And in the final inning there, you learn to see that in other people. And you learn to start identifying some of those things, the same things that you learned in high school. And I am infinitely proud that you guys, recognized what you were learning while it was taking place, because that's what good teachers do, and I'm not saying I was a good teacher, but
we are. You don't have to say
it. You don't have to say it.
We're saying that.
We'll say that.
That was always my goal, was to serve my students, to give them the best that I've got.
I think I got some of that. There's two things that I remember specific. I don't think in the time I understood what was happening, but when you would invite me, Mr. Bolich, to do something, to take on some opportunity, I always went home and I'm like, Mom, Mr. Bolich wants me to be da, 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 da. And she's like, go for it. My mom's always excited about everything. Yes, of course, do it. I'm like, all right, I'll give it a shot. So I think there's this 1-2 punch kind of thing, right? To have someone validate a skill or an opportunity, and then another trusted adult to say, yes, of course, at least for me. And so for me, I see that as an opportunity to always pour into or validate young people when they want to do something. When I see something, say something, right? Hey, you're really good at that. Or I notice how much you enjoy this, or, hey, that's kind of creative, that kind of thing, but also to validate other adults in the positive way, right? Because I think we, especially young people, we can't hear enough, especially if we're uncertain or uncomfortable or not confident about something, to hear a couple of people or to say it more than once. That's the other thing. And then the other thing I got from you, Mr. Bolich, too, that I do more often is, I pick leaders. I look for leaders. In fact, I was in the mentoring. I was mentoring a group of young students, I think between 7th and 12th grade. And there was a a triad of young boys who are young men who were kind of the troublemakers, you know, they would feed off each other.
Yeah.
But I realized how the other students responded to them. They were always watching what they were doing. If the three of them did something, they would all laugh, or, you know, they were watching them a lot. So I pulled one to the side and I'm like, you know, you're a leader. And he's like, what are you talking about, miss? I'm like, you notice how every time you do something, everybody's paying attention to you. They're listening to you. They follow you. And so we had a little pep talk about where he could use that more intentionally. But I think the idea of inviting people to lead or to look at themselves as a leader was something that I experienced from you. And therefore now I feel like, oh, that's a great thing to do. What an impact, you know?
If you don't put something on the plate of a kid, what are they going to do?
Mm-hmm.
If you don't put food on the plate, where, what?
Yeah.
You know, and that was the whole thing. And like I said, I spotted stuff. Okay. And I was just blessed to be able to do so, and then to point out to the kids that, you know, these things you can do.
Yeah.
And by the way, Eddie, I've said it probably a bazillion times. I'm going to tell you the truth. If it hurts your feelings, that's your problem.
I heard a lot of the truth, let me tell you.
Well, I mean, but
I needed it.
well, hey, flowering it over would
Right.
not have helped you.
No, that's right. That's right.
And that's you know, that's where I was always focused. You know, don't
Right.
let that go by, because it's going to make a difference down the line. So bring it to his attention. He'll fix it.
Mm-hmm.
He knows how. And
You know,
instead of saying, "Oh, you did a good job," you know, well, never mind. I won't go too far with this. But me and participation trophies don't get along.
You know, but there was a lot more to it than this. I mean, the leadership, the teaching, but you know, it was about at that time, it was about the environment that you created. I mean, if I think back now, the memory lane here, there was a whole community. I mean, we had Mr. Bolich started the Jazzfest. It lasted a few years. That he had us playing with the 98. Yeah, he played. I remember the first one, Jazzfest of Oz. I remember that.
I know. You played in it.
I did. The Flowers. That was incredible. Surrounded by all these, and then he had us playing with the 98th Army Jazz Band. He brought the Jazz Ambassadors, the military's top band to Alabama. The Woody Herman Band came to Ozark, Alabama. You know, and it was just everything about it. There was a whole community, a whole culture around music at that time, and it took a tremendous. Now that I have administrator, organize, it takes a tremendous amount of energy to do those sorts of things. But we just lived, ate, and slept music at the time, and even to the point my senior year, you can't do this anymore. I don't think I had 3 music classes. I had music theory, I had jazz band and concert band. So 3 of my 6 classes were, you know, I don't think they allow that anymore.
No.
And so it was the whole culture. You built a culture around music, and it, you know, and it encouraged. I mean, to be able to sit down. He had the Jazz Ambassadors come to Carroll High School, and we played with them in the band. I mean, it was just, who does that? It was an incredible opportunity. And
what year was I there that year?
Gosh, I don't remember.
I remember being in the Jazzfest because I was only in my jazz band my senior year. So that would have been 90, 91. Was that?
It must have been 90. It must have been senior year, 92 when they came down.
It was in 92.
It's 92.
As a matter of fact, I've got a picture from that. Okay. But
I wasn't there.
As a footnote to you kids that were in that band, the several members of the Jazz Ambassadors spoke to me after that program and said that every time they hear that they're going to be fronted by, or what I'm saying, by a high school jazz band, they shudder, they fear, because they know full well they're going to hear nothing but garbage. and these guys are saying that is without a doubt the best high school jazz band we have heard and played with ever.
Yeah.
And
They were, yeah.
boy,
We
you
were a
want to
good
talk
group.
about putting me on cloud nine. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a great experience for you guys.
That's
Tremendous. Yeah.
fantastic.
Uh,
Didn't you record I have a cassette tape of the jazz band.
That was,
Did you guys do some
that was
recording?
a studio. That was a studio job.
We
But that
did.
was the jazz band though.
That's another thing. He took us to, gosh, what was it? Willie Williams' father's place. He had a recording studio in his house.
I
And we went
have
out
it.
there and
That
recorded.
was Willie Williams' dad paid for it.
Okay.
The studio was out at Julian Brown's house. I had to
Okay,
think.
that's right. That's right. We sat. It was a professional recording studio, and I have it at home
Yeah.
too. And that was a lot of. It was just
thought
all
I
these
have it
opportunities
somewhere.
that were,
Yeah.
you were tireless back then.
I was
Yeah.
young.
I think, to the exposure, right? Exposure not only to opportunities within the band, but also, like you said, Eddie, into the community,
Yeah.
for others to benefit from. So it wasn't just like go compete, right? We did a lot of
That's right.
competitions
A
too.
lot
I
of
remember
competitions.
that. We did a lot of sectionals and all that stuff, but I think, right, to contribute to the community that we lived in was a huge part of this. And the jazz band also played the plays, the musicals,
right.
the high
Yeah.
school musical. Like there was a lot. That's fantastic. Wow. So no, I know you have questions for each other. So I'm curious, what questions do you have for any of us?
Mr. Bolich, you can go at first if you have a question.
Here's a cassette. Look.
I have that one. Oh my
Oh my
gosh.
gosh, Carol
And
Jazz.
you know who designed that cover?
1990. Who?
Mr. Bolich. He's also an artist on top of all that. He did that.
Oh, look at that. His artwork. Boom. And the music's awesome, by the way. The music is great.
Yeah,
Jumping by the
that
woodside.
was a good band.
It's fantastic.
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
Eddie.
If you have any questions for me or for
For
Valerie.
you. Oh, okay. Yeah.
For either of us.
South America, Central America, the time that you spent down there, tell us a little bit about that. That when I heard that you were in South America, I'm going, holy crap. And of course I knew you were into plant biology and all that stuff, but what better place to be than in a jungle?
Well, the first time I left the country, I went to Panama, but nothing good ever really came out of Panama. Really, no, Valerie's Panamanian. So the first time I went to Panama, I was more of a social. I went with my neighbors to meet their family, but then I was very interested in plants from a very young age, and most of my work now has been in Costa Rica. I've been down there 25, 30 times at this point, taking students down, researching, doing work in the rainforest. I've been, and Valerie and I took a trip once to Venezuela together.
Oh my gosh.
We went together to Venezuela, Mr. Bolich. You might have known that. And
I
she
didn't know that.
Yeah.
brought her cymbals and we played, No,
it was
And,
your friend. I can't remember his name, but we stayed with his mom.
Carlos.
Carlos,
Barros.
yeah. That was funny.
So, it was a combination of research and it's opportunities to go, went to Colombia and but primarily now I go for work, it's a fantastic life to be able to go to these places and meet the people, incredible people in these countries and the cultures, just phenomenal.
I got to tell a story about Eddie though, Mr. Bolich. So nothing.
No telling what this is.
No. So we used to. So on Fort Rucker, on the military base near Ozark, there would always come a contingent of people from different countries, especially Spanish-speaking countries, to train, right? Aviation training. And we had a group from Colombia and from Peru and Bolivia, from all different countries. And my mother was connected with the organization that supported and sponsored them. So I was often introduced to the guys. And I can't remember what the context was, but one summer it was just like, hey, Eddie, we should go and meet some of these guys because they need some social activities and let's go bowling or something. So we went with a group of people and I invited a couple other friends and we ended up going bowling. And it was just like a fun activity. And then maybe connected with a couple of them after that. but I was only there for the summer while I was in school. And then I left and came back home like 6 months later for Christmas break or something. And I connect with Eddie, and he's hanging out with all these people from Colombia and Bolivia, and he's speaking fluent Spanish. This was a guy that the summer prior did not speak more than just hola, ¿cómo estás? To now having like full-fledged conversations. I was so impressed. And to this day, Eddie, I tell people, I said, if you want to learn a language, yes, Duolingo, fine, great, right? Take a class. But more than anything is your willingness to learn, your courage in just expressing whatever you know, and then you'll pick things up if you get in like really, if you do deep dive with other people. But I was so impressed by that. I'm like, and so your Spanish is fantastic, or at least it was. I don't know what it's like now.
I don't know. Passable, I guess.
Willingness to learn is one of the things that you spot in kids when they want to do something, when they are going to be a good leader.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that willingness to learn. I'm willing to try anything, you know, and as long as I got somebody, you know, pointing me in the right direction and not, you know, blowing smoke at me, not literally, but figuratively.
You did. I think you did blow smoke on something.
Smoke. Yeah,
but
that's not allowed anymore, Mr. Bolich.
But that's one of those traits. Okay, that's one of those things that you spot in youngins, and y'all are seeing it with each other.
Yeah.
Okay. And other folks, the folks that you've come in contact with. Okay, going to the foreign language or foreign countries. Okay, you mentioned, you know, now I do it for work.
Right.
Okay. Well, it's not work.
No, it's
It's
not work.
fun.
That's right. Oh, it's
It's
tremendous. Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's right.
That's sort
I
of,
get paid to do it now. That's the difference.
there it is. There it
That's a
is.
distinction.
Yeah, that's right.
Paid
That's
to have
right.
a good time.
It's incredible.
Yeah, that's what I was picking up on in your conversation there. You know, well, now I'm working. You know, now I do it for work. Oh, you know,
That's very true.
That's the first thing that hit my head when I heard you say that. No, you don't. You're still doing it for fun.
Yeah, and I never say, even here, I never say I go to work. I'm going up the hill because we live at the university's on top of the hill, because it's a phenomenal job. You know, it's incredible. Yeah, it's not work. It really is not. I mean,
going to the hall.
Yeah.
Going to the hall.
Eddie, what questions do you have?
I have so many, but I mean, you already sort of said that I was your favorite student, so I want to ask that question. But you said before we started recording,
we were his favorite student.
I just
How
wonder
many
if
students have had you on a podcast, Mr. Bolich?
That's right.
Sorry, Eddie, go ahead.
I just wonder, you know, you've had so many students, so many experiences. I wonder if there's a particularly memorable experience or a performance with band that stands out as something that was, you know, in your mind as being particularly notable. I mean, maybe there've been too many, but I'm just curious about is there a moment where you're like, wow, I made it, or this is it, or whatever the emotion you had at the time?
That's kind of hard because I've been blessed with so many.
Right.
Okay. And of course, you guys are the ones that provided them. But watching kids succeed, I think is my biggest joy. Okay. They work, they dig in, they sacrifice, they do everything that they can that they're asked to do, that I'm asking them to do. Okay. And sometimes blindly, you know, I have no idea why we're doing this. But having the confidence in me and to know that we're not going in the wrong direction, you know, we're doing something that has value, and then going out and being successful and achieving that which they set out to do. That's probably the biggest part of the joy of doing what I did. Just watching kids grow, get good at what they do, and learn that, you know, this is not an expectation set by my teacher anymore. This is an expectation set by me, you know, and learning that I am going to do this until I get it right. And, you know, one way or the other, it's going to get right. That's special to me. Okay. Of all of the special things. Okay. And like I said, well, awards and all of that kind of good stuff, la da 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 da. Those weren't mine. Okay.
Right.
Those are not my awards. They're your awards. You earned them. I just laid down the plan and the rules.
That's interesting.
And the expectations. And you, young lady, I saw that podcast the other day, or that video the other day that I responded to.
Oh, my TEDx talk?
I am thoroughly impressed with your work. Thoroughly impressed. Both of you guys have gone above and beyond and have done what is necessary to do what you wanted to do and be good at it. Not be okay. I'll go and Valerie, when you said, you know, at the end of my internship, you know, or I'd come home each week and go, gee, I, you know, la da da, and I made money and so forth and so on, but duh.
Yeah.
I'm bored, you know. And when Eddie mentioned a minute ago, now I do it at work. This is my work. No, it's not your job. It's your fun. And that's what both of you have achieved.
Yeah.
That if anything is a goal of mine and has been, that's the kind of goal I want my kids to have. And I'm very, very proud that I have so many who have gone out and done the very same thing that you two guys have and found success and gone through the trials and tribulations and the failures and recovered and moved on and continue to succeed. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Thank you for that.
I have high school and band and college band directors now behind me. I mean, kids that came through our program and are now just wonderful teachers, you know, and not just band. Okay. There's a pile of kids, not a pile. Okay. There's several former band kids that teach here in Ozark and in Enterprise and in Daleville and wherever. Okay. All over the place.
You know, what's interesting in what you're saying, Mr. Bolich, is that I think you're right. Again, Eddie, you have been a Fern guy. I think you were signing your yearbooks with Fern guy, Eddie Watkins.
I probably
From the time I've
I
known
remember
you.
that.
Forever. But I think, you know, Eddie and I both pursued the things that we're most passionate about. But I think, Mr. Bolich, you did too. Right. And I think what you're speaking to, at least from what I'm understanding, what you're speaking to is you were a band director that was committed not only to the music, also to the craft and to the leadership and to the community and to the kids, you know, the students that you were teaching. And all of that balled up is really that was your success, right? Your success, you were able to contribute that way. But having a model of an adult in a profession that has that much commitment, that much passion, makes it so much makes it doable for others to know that you don't have to suffer with work. It doesn't have to be a drudgery. It doesn't have to be some, you know, you just suffer through and survive it. So I think you not only, you demonstrated that, but then that's what you begot that. And then we all had the opportunity to do the same, right?
Well,
Eddie, do you remember Mr. Bulish's, when he did his TED Talks in band? Do you remember these?
I do remember.
Mr. Bullish, did you realize that you were doing TED Talks during
Way
band
back
practice?
then.
no,
Eddie, what do you remember about those?
I remember one in particular. We were on the eve of going to a competition somewhere. I don't know where it was, maybe Auburn or somewhere. And some alum came in to give us a pep talk. We were literally getting ready to go board the buses, and you had just given us a spiel about something or other. And then this person came in and you said something, and I wish I could remember the quote, because it was something to the effect of, when you leave here, you always want the band to be better, but you hope it never will, or something like that. It was a message of like, you were dedicated to this place. You want it to be better when you leave, but you really want you want to be the best. But there was a balancing of like the ideas. It was part of your TED Talk, I guess, that you want to be the best, but at the same time you want to be better. You want to look back and say, we left this place a lot better than when we came in. And that was I don't know why that stuck with me all these years, but that sentiment anyway.
yeah.
And you also used to say something about show your class, not your bad attitude. You never said bad manners.
Bad
right?
manners.
And you have another Bolishism was something like, oh my goodness, I forgot what it was. It'll come to me. I'm having that moment.
They get more common.
But
Yes, they do.
It's been, assumptions. You're the first one where I've heard when someone says, don't make assumptions because it makes do you remember this?
You and me both.
Yeah, that was the first time I'd ever heard that. But yeah, you would give these.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was the whole class. Like we'd go in there for concert band, and we wouldn't play a note. And you would
especially if you were mad. If he was mad, if he was upset, we would. That was
if
it.
I
We
was
were
upset, y'all would want to hear it now.
Oh, we did.
And it was like, okay, this is lecture time today. And but sometimes it wasn't because you're mad, but there's some level of inspiration that you wanted to convey. And I remember sometimes students would be a little antsy or impatient, but I don't know if I appreciated it as much as I do now, but I do think that those were magical moments. Like you were really like pouring into us some wisdom or some insights. And, when you're 14, 15, 16, 17 years old, and maybe you're not always picking up on all the signals, but the time that you took, that investment, I think is what was really evident looking back anyways.
Well, you were teenagers, okay? You're not going to pick up all the stuff. Okay? Which is why it took so long sometimes to present it, because I knew that it was going over heads, so I'd have to say it 2 or 3 different ways. One time I went by the superintendent's office because he made a not so kind remark, and he was retired light colonel, and he said, I've never been spoken to in that manner by a subordinate. I said, excuse me, sir. You've been in the education business for 4 years. I've been in the education business for 33. I don't see that I am your subordinate. And then he said, well, young man, you work for me. And I said, no, sir, I don't. I work for the kids, period. And I turned around and walked out.
Classic Bolish.
And those poor kids got an earful after.
About the superintendent.
That's what I wanted to say.
Making assumptions.
There you go. But now that's one of those things, Valerie, when you were talking about, the stuff, okay, a few moments ago. that sort of floated through my mind, kids are kids, and kids are always going to be kids. And I never did forget that I was a kid once too.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, when I cover for Brenda from time to time, and for Nick when he was here, I'll tell the kids, I said, don't forget now, don't forget, I've been your age. I know what goes on in your head, or what ought not go on in your head. But anyway.
It's, the two of you it has been such a cool experience to do this reunion show, if you will. As we wrap up our time together, I'm curious about what has this been like for the two of you?
Okay.
Go ahead, Mr. Bolich.
You guys have absolutely smothered me in compliments. And I am here again. I am so grateful. I am grateful. The good Lord has blessed me with people like you to teach and to grow up and to become productive citizens and adults, and just do wonderful things for other people, not just for your living, okay, but for helping other people. And that is, you have made me feel like I was a little bit bigger part than I thought I might have been. But thank you. This has been wonderful. And Eddie, it's been good to see you as with a face and motions and all that stuff. Still pictures of you standing holding some sort of wicked looking plant in your hand, hiding behind a leaf, but whatever. But this has just been a lot of fun. It really has. And I will be honest, I came into this a little bit on the anxious side, okay? Because as I told Valerie, I'm not good at interviews. I have to see to show my, and or say things that are, shall we say, inappropriate.
You curbed your instincts.
You behaved very well.
Well, thank you. After retirement, I kind of loosened up a little bit.
More? You did wonderful, Mr. Bolich. Thank you so much. I know, yes. And I'd asked you to be on the podcast before, maybe a couple years ago, when I was doing the solo interviews, and you had some concerns then. So I'm really grateful that you said yes, and you were open to this experience.
Well, you know what the difference is?
What?
Eddie. There's another person here.
Oh.
Found out it was him. It's like, hey, great.
Not just you, Valerie. Good Lord, come on.
There's a conversation between three people as opposed to two.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And it was nothing against you, but what did I say? I'm not good at interviews.
Yeah.
Okay. Especially live interviews. Holy crap. But this has been more like a reunion chat. Sitting at the table, eating and talking.
There you go. Good. I'm glad. And I don't take it personally. So no, this is absolutely appropriate.
I know you don't.
I'm so glad that you were able to say yes. And Eddie, I'm really happy to reconnect with you too. I know we don't get to see each other much anymore, but you played such a large part of my adolescence, really. And even even our college years, we were really close and spent a lot of time having wonderful adventures with random people in other countries. What was this like for you, Eddie?
Oh, it's fantastic. I'm so grateful for the invitation, and it was, I guess I'm a little embarrassed that I haven't seen Mr. Bolich in so long, but I don't go back as often as I would like back home. But, when I do, I'm usually just hunkered down with the family, and we don't do much, but just hang out. But it's been fantastic to see you again, Mr. Bolich, and to relive so many memories here that were just flooding back. I had some prepared questions and ideas, but so many things come back. I thought, wow, we need to keep going for another couple of hours to really get through all this stuff. And also, Valerie, it's just so fun to see you. We've known each other through a lot of stuff, a lot of, good, positive, negative stuff for many years, professional as well, and I just am so grateful for your. And when I was thinking about what is one word that I would use to define Valerie, it's positivity. Throughout your whole life, no matter what has happened to you, you've had that fantastic smile and that incredible, happy, positive out, and that's been an inspiration. And it absolutely has. That level of energy you have, and I don't think it's fake. I know it's not fake. It's just positive energy, and you really have set a good example of how to, in my own life, of how to live my life, and to sort of like, what would Valerie do here? She would smile and just walk away. So it's really great to see you, Valerie, and to be here and to continue to be inspired by you. This is really great, and I'm grateful for the invitation.
You guys were fantastic.
Valerie, I want to ditto what he just said. Okay. Because your energy is absolutely wonderful. You are so positive. And guess what I saw back when you were a junior in high school?
What?
Look in the mirror. Listen to what Eddie just said.
I see. Positivity.
Okay? Yes.
Yeah.
Now the co-captain thing, okay. If I'm not mistaken, I think I recall that she would do the writing part, okay, creative part. You would do the leadership. You would do the, bad word here, cheerleader work, okay? The staying behind and keeping everybody moving and active, okay? You two were a good team.
We were.
Very good team. And it took me a few hours for me to decide how I was going to deal with that. Because I've got a long, strong leader right on here, and I've got an extraordinarily good creative person on the other. Now, how am I going to combine them?
That was brilliant.
Well,
if she does say so herself.
No, not that I was brilliant, and the idea was brilliant, because I think what you did was really just, here's the thing, and I shared this, I think, in the essence of my TEDx talk, is that it's not about having titles and expertise. It's about really your gifts and talents, and there are ways that we can combine them and help collaborate with them if we don't have the ego about it, right? It's not like this person is better than that person. Being creative is better than leadership, and leadership is better. No, it's simply, how do we get the best out of the people that we are working with? And I think that's what you demonstrated so beautifully in that moment. And we were great. And it was really what the group needed, right? The group needed the creativity and the writing, and this is the kind of flag that we'll use for this particular routine. And they also needed, hey, I need some help with this technique, and the encouragement that they would get it, and the bonding that needed to happen in order for people to trust each other. So I think being able to see that in others and pull that out of them, and then tell them, hey, I want you to work together, support each other. Brilliant. Really brilliant.
That was put on the plate. Okay.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
Put that on the plate.
Thank you.
All I had to do was mix it up.
Turn on the fire every once in a while.
That was easy for me to do, because you guys had already done it.
I wanted to address something. Eddie, you mentioned that you were kind of embarrassed that you hadn't seen Mr. Bolich in a while. So first time I saw Mr. Bolich since high school was last summer. So we hadn't seen each other. Yeah. But we've spoken on the phone maybe 3 or 4 times, Mr. Bolich, in the last 20 years. So Eddie, you have no excuse.
Well, I listen, I hear about him. My sister works
Aw.
in the courthouse in Dale County, and I often get reports from the sheriff's office about him. So I hear about what he's doing, so.
Well, yeah, okay, yeah. The sheriff's office would have plenty of information.
The sheriff.
By the way, Valerie, I know where you got your energy. Okay, spitting image of your mama.
Mom, yes, and she's
You
probably
are,
watching
that's
this
right.
going,
Yeah, that's
thank
right.
you."
That's absolutely right. Absolutely
Yep.
right.
Yes, and I got my
And your
discipline
smile.
from my dad.
There you
Again,
go.
collaboration.
There you go.
The two of you are phenomenal. Thank you both so much for your time and your energy and all the things that you've been pouring into the communities you now live in, the young people that you're involved with, all the talents that you're giving in the world and creating the opportunity for other people to do the same. So fantastic. I'm so proud to be associated with the two of you. And who knew that such good would happen in Ozark, Alabama for 16-year-olds, right? And
Yeah,
that would position me for the rest of my life in so many positive ways. So thank you. No shade to Alabama, but coming in, I wasn't feeling that for the first couple of years. So this really turned my life around. So thank you
I'm
both.
so
You both
thankful
played
for
a
the opportunity.
really huge role in that.
Thank you, Valerie.
Fantastic.
I am so thankful for that opportunity and this opportunity. Thank you.
Excellent. Well, the two of you just hang out here, but thank you for those of you who've tuned in to this episode of the podcast, Not Quite Strangers. So grateful that you were able to spend some time with us today. Again, don't forget to rate us, give us your comments. What did you think of the episode? And more importantly, think about the people in your life that you want to have an impact on. And where else can you share your talent and contribute? We'll have a wonderful rest of the day, everyone.
You've been listening to the podcast Not Quite Strangers. Be sure to subscribe or follow on your favorite video or podcast platform. And for more information and content, go to notquitestrangers.com. See you next time.